The intelligence agency says no confidential information was ever at risk, but it is the latest in a spate of high-profile attacks on targets such as the IMF, Sony and Google. Tom Ackerman reports.
It's been a busy month for the cyber burglar group that calls itself LulzSec. Just listen to their voicemail.
We are not available right now as we are busy raping your internets. Leave a message and we will get back to you whenever we feel like.
This week they took credit for taking down the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency's website for several hours. And for the second time, LulzSec hacked the site of the U.S. Senate, which admitted that some information was stolen but nothing of value. Those break-ins, says LulzSec, aimed at showing its target's security is embarrassingly slack. But the motive is simple larceny and other attacks, like gaining access to bank and credit card details of more than 360,000 Citigroup customers last month. Meanwhile, a just-discovered serious breach of the International Monetary Fund's computers could have been intended to learn sensitive insider information on national economies. And other cyber hackers say they're striking blows against oppressive governments, like the group Anonymous, which claimed responsibility on Wednesday for attacking dozens of Malaysian government sites in retaliation for what it called censorship of the web.
The internet is here for freedom, without fear of government interference. Do not think that no one else notices.
President Barack Obama has given top priority to meeting the cyber threat to U.S. national security.
We will deter, prevent, detect, and defend against attacks and recover quickly from any disruptions or damage.
This building will be attacked 3 million times today.
U.S. military planners have followed up, laying out an aggressive strategy for international cooperation on cybersecurity. It defines attacks against government computer networks as potential acts of war. But officials admit the field of battle can be ill-defined.
You have the inherent right of self-defense, but what can you do to stop somebody in a neutral country? And in cyberspace, it's easy to jump through neutral countries to attack someone.
Just one of the challenges in the shadow wars of the web. Tom Ackerman, Al Jazeera, Washington.
So there are different types of cyber attacks. Some appear to come from foreign sources. The U.S. government is tracing recent attacks, it says, on Google email accounts to hackers in China. Lockheed Martin was also targeted, the largest defense contractor in the U.S. Experts again blaming China. And the U.S. has declared now that attacks in cyberspace can be considered an act of war. China's official military newspaper is reporting that that country now needs its own strategy for online warfare. But a variety of motives have been ascribed to cyber attacks, security experts believing the attacks on the Sony Pictures website and the Sony PlayStation network were intended to punish the company for bringing a lawsuit against a hacker. Cyber criminals are said to be behind the May attack on Citigroup. The thieves broke into the bank's digital vault of financial data. Vincent Liu joins us now live from San Francisco. He's an internet security consultant. Is there anything really, though, linking this recent apparent onslaught of attacks? Perhaps we're just hearing more about them now that there's a requirement for corporations to report such attacks.
Right. Well, certainly a lot of the recent news that you've been hearing about is driven because of the new laws that are in place around data breach and privacy regulations. But these types of attacks have actually been occurring for well over a decade. And what most people don't realize is these continuous attacks, both by state-sponsored and state-encouraged or independent hacktivist organizations, these types of things have been going on for quite a while. It's just now that you're hearing about them.
Right, and now, so that's one thing. And now we have this new, rather nebulous concept of cyber warfare that's being introduced, which is far more unproven and is perhaps something utterly different to the sort of cyber espionage and any sort of espionage we've always seen in the past.
Right. Cyber warfare is again, like you said, a nebulous term. It's very hard to define what is considered an act of war. The Pentagon, of course, has taken the position that any act of cyber warfare is considered an act of war. How do you define that? Right now, I think what they're doing is they're placing a flag in the sand and saying, we have the right to strike back if we deem that this is some type of attack. But they haven't come out with specifics yet.
I mean, there is that suspicion that, for one thing, there's a lot of money to be made, particularly by former administration officials here in the U.S. who are now part of cybersecurity organizations in talking about cyber warfare, even though it's rather unproven. And there's also that fear that the military is trying to get hold and more control over the internet and our internet communications, and using this flag of cyber warfare as a means to do that.
Yeah, that's true, and since the very, very beginning, the internet was a military-funded project to begin with, and they've always wanted to regain control over it to a certain extent. But I think what we're seeing is that it's grown to a point where they can't manage it as well. It's very, very difficult to track down attacks, and the nature of these types of attacks, cyber warfare in general, make it so that it's not like you're deploying troops to the border of a country where you can very easily define who's attacking you and what they're after. Cyber attacks occur over the internet, and a lot of times it's very difficult to attribute them to a particular country, whether they're state-sponsored, or to hacktivist organizations like Anonymous or LulzSec.
But as far as cyber espionage is concerned, as opposed to cyber warfare, and let's face it, everyone's at cyber espionage. The NSA has its own cyber espionage unit, we understand, trying to hack into friendly and unfriendly governments. Wouldn't a simple way out of all this, though, as a protection, be encryption? And yet it's the Pentagon who's against encryption.
Encryption is one way to protect yourself. It's a form, it's a one measure that you can take, but a lot of these attacks that are occurring against Google, against Adobe, against Lockheed Martin, the primary vector that these hackers are taking bypass encryption. They're not based on the strength of these very, very difficult problems. Instead, they're targeting the susceptibility of users. They're fooling users into giving away. Right, but the Pentagon doesn't want encryption,
which would be a great shield, because of course the Pentagon wants to hack into our accounts as well, as do the hackers.
That's certainly something that I'm sure they'd like to do.
Vincent Liu, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Argentina's military is sending aid to its border with Chile 10 days after a volcano erupted and covered the area in ash. The Chilean volcano blanketed fields and livestock in Argentina. Farmers are concerned it could greatly affect food production. Experts from Chile's National Service of Geology and Mining say the volcano shows no sign of stabilizing and warn eruptions could intensify. The Argentinian President, Cristina Kirchner, is accusing Britain's David Cameron of arrogance and mediocrity. That's after the British Prime Minister said the